Welcome to the Slut Next Door podcast, where we dive deep into desire, unravel kinks and fetishes, and explore the deliciously naughty side of self-discovery. I'm Beatrix Vale, an erotic audio creator, and your guide to all things kinky and curious. So let's begin. Hello, dear listeners. Today we're diving into something that you might crave a lot, or it might be something you're curious about, or think, I see this everywhere, but what does it mean? Or maybe you're even guessing why it's something you're always drawn to. We're going to be talking about the JOI, which stands for Jerk Off Instructions. And it's something that wraps itself around your desires and leaves you helplessly aching for more. At least that's the goal of my JOIs. And before we get started into the episode, I want to invite you to subscribe or follow this podcast if you're not already. And if you've not had the pleasure of listening to one of my JOIs, hit the link that is in this episode description, and that'll take you to all the places where I post free content, a lot of it being JOI. And if you want a little bit more and the ability to speak directly to me, go ahead and follow my loyal fans, which is inside that link. But let's go ahead and get back to JOIs. So you might be wondering what makes a JOI so irresistible. It's, in my opinion, the perfect dance between control and release. The sweet seduction of surrendering to my voice, letting me guide you exactly where I want you to go. It's power play, but made personal, intimate, and can be utterly addictive. So throughout this episode, we're going to explore why JOI has such a powerful allure, what makes it so effective at unraveling you, teasing you, and making you feel so perfectly obedient. We'll talk about how these experiences are crafted to hit all the right spots and why people find themselves so helplessly and hopelessly captivated by this kind of guided bliss. Now, since I live a lot in the femdom world, this episode is going to be definitely femdom centric. But that's not to say that JOIs can be used for, say, dominant men or dominant women. This is just, my podcast is about my experiences. I feel very confident on what a JOI is. And so that's going to come from my point of view of being a femdom. So, why don't you relax and let my voice take you wherever I want you to go? Because by the time we're done, you'll understand why JOI is such a potent and irresistible experience. And you are going to hear a live demonstration. Okay, so let's first talk about what makes these things so addictive. Now, jerk off instructions might sound simple on the surface, and it can be. There's lots of different styles of JOIs, but in my world, it's so much more than that because it's an experience, a journey of arousal and surrender, carefully crafted to unravel you little by little, to make you feel like my control is slipping under your skin, settling deep into your mind. Because if you know me, I do a lot of hypnophiles as well. So, and JOI is absolutely one of the hypno themes for erotic hypnosis. But at its core, jerk off instructions, in my opinion, is about power dynamics. It is the perfect style for if you long to be told what to do, to be stripped of choice, of responsibility, so you can fully indulge in pleasure without guilt or hesitation. Just my voice, your need working together. And the thrill of giving yourself over to that control can be quite intoxicating. Now, I can imagine some men, especially men that aren't particularly submissive, they'd be like, why do I even need some woman to tell me how to jerk off? Okay, well, fair. I know that men are very good at jerking off. But if you crave, in my opinion, if you crave kind of a deeper connection and having that feeling of giving over the control and responsibility, then a JOI is just fucking perfect for you because you're not just simply sitting there jerking off mindlessly and lasts, 10 seconds. um, Another thing that JOIs can do is allow for some fantasy fulfillment because the way JOI allows me to reach inside of your mind, play with your desires, and shape them into something far more irresistible than you ever imagined. And then there's the sensory experience. You've got the way my words slide into your ears, each syllable crafted to caress your naughty thoughts. And then there's the pacing, the rhythm, and the tone, all designed to lure you in deeper, making you so blissfully lost in my guidance that nothing else matters. Not the outside world, not your own worries, just my voice leading you right where I want you to go. And it becomes like guided pleasure. It's not just about getting you off, it's about the journey, the way that I can build you up, twist you around, and leaving you hanging by a thread. Delicious. I love it. And then it becomes like this game of cat and mouse in a way, and I'm just waiting for the perfect moment in my experience or in my file where I allow you to fall apart. And the more that you give in, the more you crave to hear me do it all over again. And I think that for the submissive listener, it's about surrendering autonomy to a dominant figure. So bypassing the critical mind and embedding itself into that primal nervous system. There's a thrill and relinquishing control, trading the burden of decision making for the euphoria of being led. And psychologically, it's almost like a mirror to cravings for structure and fear of freedom. I think that men drawn to this kink often yearn to quiet their internal chaos, the noise of daily stressors, expectations, or even insecurities by outsourcing their pleasure to an authority they trust. And so my voice can become their compass or even like their permission slip to indulge without guilt or shame. And, the real magic of JOI is it weaponizes anticipation because in a good JOI, in my opinion, by slowing down, teasing, and denying, you amplify dopamine until the brain craves your approval more than release itself. And and then it's just not about the orgasm. It's about rewiring pleasure pathways to associate bliss with my validation. And of course, it's one thing to talk about what makes JOI so irresistible, but it's something else entirely when I show you. So you're in luck because I'm about to take you on a little journey. We're going to do something very special. I'm going to give a live demonstration where I guide you into that delicious, helpless state of arousal. And then I'll break down exactly what I did, why it works so beautifully on obedient minds, maybe like yours. So consider this a little taste of what it's like to be under my control. And as we move through this, I want you to pay attention to how my words affect you, how your body responds, how your mind feels as I tease you, train you, and make you need me. And of course, you don't have to follow along with the JOI like physically. If you just want to listen and check out how I structure this, you're more than welcome. You are also more than welcome to play along, you know, physically. So I'll also say that if you are in a place where you're walking around in public, maybe press pause and come back to this later so you don't embarrass yourself in front of your coworkers or people in public. Okay, so let's get started. I want you to close your eyes for me, if you can safely do so. And you can keep them closed or you can open them back up. But I definitely want you to just listen to my voice. Feel how each word wraps itself around your thoughts, pulling you deeper, gently, but inevitably. Good boy. You like it when I call you that, don't you? When I make you feel so perfectly controlled, like you're right where you're supposed to be. Now, I want you to start stroking yourself. That's right. Go ahead. Slowly, gently, just enough to feel my control reaching all the way down into your body. Just like that. It feels good to obey, doesn't it? To know that you're pleasing me, that my voice has the power to make you feel this good. All right, so let's break that down for a moment. So notice how I started with simple grounding instructions like closing your eyes and just listening, because that's crucial, because it establishes the first layer of control, focuses attention entirely on me. And then I immediately establish a dynamic of control and pleasure. So using the phrase good boy, not only as a phrase, but a subtle trigger, rewarding their obedience, making you crave more. I mean, that's just a classic technique in JOI, pairing verbal rewards with physical pleasure. I also instructed you to touch yourself slowly. So that's me setting the pace, making sure the control feels deliberate. I took away your autonomy and gave it to me, or took it rather. And so the experience just becomes so much more immersive. So now we're going to keep going. Now, you're going to keep stroking for me, but nice and slow. And I want you to feel how my words slip beneath your skin, guiding every little movement. You're not even thinking, are you? Just obeying because you know how good it feels to follow my instructions. And every single time you hear me say, good boy, it sends a rush, a pleasure straight through you. That's right. Feel your body responding to my voice. Feel all those thoughts melting away. I bet you want to go faster for me. I know you do, but you're gonna stop. Hands off now. And don't you dare touch yourself until I say so. Very good boy. So let's notice how I gradually, just barely built up intensity. First, by encouraging you to touch yourself while listening to my voice, then linking pleasure to the verbal trigger, good boy. And this is a basic psychological conditioning technique because it turns arousal into something that feels earned. So you're going to keep doing that, right? And then I added in a fun little layer of denial, suddenly taking the pleasure away. By telling you to stop, what I'm doing is demonstrating control over your pleasure and hopefully making you feel helpless and needy. And the more that the listener feels that control, I hope that the deeper they're going to fall into my JOI experience. So, this style of guiding through the arousal and then abruptly denying it creates a sort of emotional roller coaster, a little fun, which makes the eventual release feel that much more satisfying. So let's resume with the JOI. Look at you, so desperate and so perfectly obedient. That's what you crave, isn't it? To feel my control holding you down, making you hang on every single word. To feel like you're nothing but my good boy, trained to listen and obey. Now, start stroking again. Slowly, though. Just like that, nice and slow. And feel how much sweeter it is when you follow my instructions. Feel how good it is to know when I'm pleased with you. But don't get too comfortable, darling, because I can make you stop any time I want. And you'll do it because you need my voice to guide you. All right, so this time I reinforce that sense of control by making you stop and start at my command, creating that tension between your arousal and my authority is key to crafting the perfect JOI experience in my world where I'm focusing on control, a lot of times a gentle femdom, very seductive kind of JOI experience. But also notice how I build up your desperation by reminding you of your place as a good boy who's trained to obey. And again, once you associate your pleasure with obeying my voice, it becomes a kind of conditioning, one that, in my experience, others are very desperate to repeat. So, now, where were we? Oh, yes. You were pumping for me, nice and slow, just feeling my voice coil itself around your mind. Doesn't it feel good to let go like this? to let me take control of your pleasure, because that's what you crave. To be told exactly what to do and feel so blissfully helpless as you obey. And I want you to think about why this feels so good, why my voice has this power over you. It's because I know just how to reach inside your mind and draw out all those filthy little cravings. You know, the ones you keep locked away until you hear my voice. And then it all comes spilling out, doesn't it? Or we could say, leaking out. Keep stroking, slow and gentle, because I want you to feel my words slipping under your skin, making you shiver, making you need. That's right. You're so good at this. So good at surrendering to me. Okay, let's pause for a moment and talk about what's happening here. So what I'm doing right now is guiding the listener through a blend of kind of hypnotic type of talk and JOI. So by continuously using phrases like good boy, layering commands with sensual encouragement, I'm reinforcing the power dynamic, making you feel like you're doing exactly what I want. But there's more. I'm also making you reflect on why this feels so good, why the power exchange is so enticing. And here's the truth. It's because submissives crave that feeling of letting go. They want to surrender to their pleasure to someone else, to feel that sense of control being taken away. It's like an emotional high of being owned, controlled, and guided. And I use that craving to pull you deeper into the experience. Now, I want you to imagine something. Imagine that every time I say good boy, it sends a little shock of pleasure straight to your cock. Like my words are the only thing that matter. Like I have absolute control over your pleasure. You love that feeling, don't you, my good boy? That sensation of your mind melting under my words. Because when I guide you, it's as if nothing else exists. Just me and you. And that aching need building with every breath. Keep stroking for me. You can go just a tad bit faster, but not too fast. Don't go too fast yet. I want you to think about why you cannot resist this feeling. Why my control feels so damn good. It's because you want to be led, don't you? You want to be guided into pleasure, pushed into that delicious state of submission where everything feels so perfectly right. And here's the thing. It's not just about pleasure, is it? It's about feeling owned. Feeling like you exist solely to please me, to be my good boy, to sink so deep into the state of blissful obedience that nothing else matters. Yes, good boy. Now take those hands off. I know. Let that frustration simmer for me. Good boy. That's like a fire that I can only control. Mm. Now, do you notice how I'm continuously reinforcing the psychological appeal of JOI? Because it's not just about the physical sensation, it's about the emotional and mental aspect of surrender. Because I'm playing on that you want to be controlled, owned, and pleasing me becomes your reward, and my approval becomes your addiction. So, the dynamic I've established so far is built on the desire to relinquish control, but also the deep rooted need for affirmation and satisfaction. And when I take that pleasure away, when I tell you to stop, it magnifies your desperation. And suddenly, your pleasure is at my mercy. And that frustration, it's just as pleasurable as the touch itself. And that's the secret to the perfect JOI experience. It's not just about arousal, it's about ownership and control and knowing that you need my voice to feel complete. Oh, you're such a needy, obedient thing, aren't you? So desperate to please me, to hear me tell you that you're a good boy. And you are, because you're following so beautifully. So, good boys get reward. I want you to start pumping again, but this time, even a little faster, a little more eagerly. That's right. Feel your pleasure building with every pump, every breath, every word. And you love this feeling, don't you? Yes, that sense of being controlled, of being owned. You love knowing that your pleasure belongs to me and that you'll do anything to keep hearing my voice guiding you deeper and deeper. It feels so good to obey, doesn't it? Pumping more eagerly. Yeah, giving in to my control and letting me take you exactly where I want you to go. And the more you listen, the more that grows. And the more you need my voice. Yes, good boy. So now I've integrated everything I've been talking about: establishing control, giving you permission to experience pleasure, then teasing and denying you to intensify your desire. And also notice that I'm constantly reaffirming your place, using words like good boy, you belong to me, establishing a bond that feels comforting and exciting. And notice how my tone is starting to match the rhythm that I hope you are stroking and pumping at, increasing that rhythm a bit and that urgency in my voice. And why JOIs are so alluring is that it gives an opportunity to feel owned, guided, and thoroughly controlled. Now, my darling, I want you to stop again. That's right, I said hands off. Yes, good boy. Don't you dare touch. But I do want you to feel that frustration building once more. Feel how badly you need my permission, my approval, my voice guiding you. And you're already so beautifully trained, so perfectly mine. And that's what good boys do. They obey. They crave to obey. Like, do me one last thing, darling. I want you to grip yourself tightly. Don't stroke or pump. I just want you to wrap that hand around your hard, leaky, needy cock. Grip it tightly. And know that you are My good boy, aren't you? Yes, and you can feel it now. You can feel my control wrapping even tighter around your cock. And it feels so good, doesn't it? So there we go. That was my JOI demonstration of how, like I said, I do it in my world, which is very femdom centric. I'm working with a lot of men that want to feel like good boys. So that is a very comfortable um, place that I live in, using seduction and power exchange to provide a delicious, memorable JOI experience. And I know I mentioned this before, JOIs can be in many, many different themes or niches, and they're going to be way different than what I did. What I am doing is very mesmerizing, very mommy dom, gentle femdom, which is a lot of my brand. But I hope I was able to kind of display why JOI feels so resistible. And I believe it's because the listener of JOI, the ones that keep coming back, it's just about that surrender, being guided through pleasure instead of just sitting there alone jerking off. um, if you want, if you're aching to go even deeper, definitely click on the link that's in this episode description, and it'll take you to multiple places where you can interact with my content and absolutely experience a JOI from start to finish, because I definitely left this live demonstration on hanging on a string. And I would apologize for that, but I'm not, because I am into denial myself. But also, please make sure that you're subscribed to the Slut Next Door podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you're on YouTube, please comment, interact with the video. It does help this podcast get pushed out, to more people. And I do hope you'll be back next time for more. But until then, be a good boy. And that's a wrap for this episode of The Slut Next Door, where we dive deep into the raw, unapologetic truths of human desire. If you loved what you heard today, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a juicy moment. Want to connect with me outside the podcast? Click the link in my bio, where you can find lots of juicy content and options. Until next time, I'm Beatrix Vale, your Slut Next Door, and I'll see you in the next episode.